Hey, what's up guys? Tyler here with Secureteam. Well, we have some very interesting new Mars rover images of some sort of worm-like creature moving on the Martian surface, released by NASA, that once again are proving what we've always said, that Mars is not some dead, radiation-covered planet as NASA would have us believe. Now, I want you to stay tuned and watch this whole video because I'm going to show you one of the biggest and best collections of evidence that I have proving that there are structures on Mars, there are craft on Mars, there are buildings, there are statues, there are monoliths, there are domes, there are glass tube-like structures underground, with objects moving through them. There are entrances on the surface leading down into some sort of underground base. There are bones. There are skeletons. There are lights. There are UFOs in the sky. And suffice it to say, there are a lot of things that NASA would like to keep secret. But these things have leaked out little by little over the years, and we're going to put it all together for you in a nice little package here on this video so you can bring yourself up to speed, especially if you're new to the channel and this topic of research. So if you are new to the channel, welcome. We're hitting about 80,000 new subscribers every month. Simply amazing how many people are waking up. Finally. So we have these two new images, and we're showing you the first image where you see nothing. You're looking at the dirt here on the Martian surface. There's nothing there. And in the very next image, we see this worm-looking object moving through the dirt. And if you follow what NASA would tell us about Mars, you'll realize how amazing this evidence is. I mean, it's plain as day. Look at it. This thing is wiggling up out of the dirt, whatever it is. And it proves that there's more to Mars than just simple microbial life, if that. And we know that likely Mars was a planet just like Earth was. So picture Mars as another Earth, maybe a few million years ago, before it was devastated and destroyed by what, in my opinion, I believe was a nuclear war of some sort, where high energy weapons were used on the planet that basically wiped it out. And this is obvious when you look at the scarring on the surface of Mars and do a little bit of research, and you'll see that this type of scarring comes directly from a high energy weapon using some sort of electricity or laser type weapon that would create this sort of scarring on the surface. And there's a few YouTube videos here that I will put down in the video description that will blow your mind and show you scientifically, using experiments done here on Earth, that the scarring and the craters on Mars, many of them, could only come from a high energy weapon using electricity being shot down into the Martian surface, destroying everything in its path. So be sure to watch that video. So we have this new evidence showing this worm-like thing moving on Mars. It's awesome. But we've also featured many other anomalous things on this channel, such as this object here, caught by the Curiosity rover, of another worm-like structure moving in the cliffside on Mars. And this structure almost looks like a screw, and it's actually much larger than this worm-looking thing in the first images, in these new images. This thing is much larger from the view of the camera from where the rover is. You can see it's basically cutting out of the dirt, coming across and digging back into the soil. And it has a very solid, straight, screw-like structure. Now, some have said this is a possible tunnel because this object is so large. And it brings us to the fact that researchers have found underground tunnels coming up out of the surface, found in cracks on Mars, made out of some sort of glass see-through structure. Those images you're seeing here. So there very well could be a thriving population living underground on Mars, because these images here were snapped of these glass tubes that are moving underneath the surface, stretching for miles in some cases. One particular view in which we actually see one of the vehicles used inside these tubes, which you're seeing here, and we will go ahead and zoom in on this for you. And you can see right here in the center of this tube, we see a large circular metallic object. Almost looks like a large metallic ball. And you can see the sunlight reflecting off of the top of this thing as it moves through this glass tunneling. Now, speaking of this mass destruction that happened on Mars millions of years ago, there are also clues on the surface that have been left, just as you would find in the rubble of any bombed out town here on Earth. You will always find clues. You will always find pieces and bits, and we're going to show you some of those here that we've shown in past videos. Here is an object that was found sticking out of the sand on Mars. Very alien looking structure. Almost looks like a turret, a machine gun turret. You see this base here, and then you see this large pointed object sticking up out of it, pointing toward the sky. Here we have one of our favorite images showing a structure of some sort that NASA blatantly tried to blur out. Now, some have said this looks like some sort of an animal, a crab, a lobster. Who knows? It could be anything. It could be a ship, but it definitely does have some detail to it. But again, not the first time NASA has blurred something out. So moving on, talking about these bones or skeletons or fossils that have been found on Mars. Here is one of my favorite images of what looks like some sort of canine-looking animal. And as you're seeing here, just as in fossils that you would find buried in the dirt here on Earth, we see the spinal cord, and then we have what almost looks like a perfect canine-like skull, or dinosaur-like skull, up here at the top. Complete with the skull, the jawbone, a large eye opening here at the top, and it looks exactly like the fossil finds here on Earth. Now, I want you to look at this image here. This is actually a picture from Earth showing some fossils that were recently discovered. You can see this massive tailbone and spinal cord here. Then I want to move to this image here, which is from Mars, showing a very similar image of what looks like the spinal cord and tail of something that could be similar to an alligator here on Earth. And this is a very famous photo. Again, here's a zoomed in shot. You can see the identical boned structures coming up, one after the other, just as you would see in an alligator, a crocodile, a dinosaur here on Earth. Another favorite image of mine is this here that we recently did a video on of what looks like some sort of alien crab creature sitting on the inside of some rocks. You can see the circular structure and all of these what look like legs coming out of the side of it, gripping these rocks here. And I mean it's creepy looking, definitely, but this is a very devastating image here because it shows you what type of life there is on Mars. Whether it's mutated, whether it's not, it's there. And speaking of fossils, we have also found humanoid looking skulls. This is a very famous image here showing one of these alien skulls on the surface. And you can see it's a much larger skull than you would find here on Earth with humans. You see the eyes here at the top, the nose. However, at the bottom, we have these two large circular pieces of bone that obviously you would not find on a human skull. And here again, we have another newer Mars image showing another skull sticking up out of the soil. You can see the eye holes. You can see the triangular nose opening. So moving on to the UFO activity and the structures that we found on Mars that would indicate a presence, whether past or present. Here's a recent image that we did a video on showing a triangular formation of lights coming out of a darkened crater on Mars. That was found on Google Earth, but nonetheless, they are there. Now, we've seen a lot of objects on the surface, whether they're in the air, whether they're on the surface. Here is an image of an object that looks to be burrowing down into the surface of Mars. It almost looks like a crash site. We see this large area that's been dug into the soil as if you had a disc skidding along the top of the dirt. And then at the very end, we see, in fact, a disc-shaped object buried down underneath the topsoil. Here's a great image showing a metallic disc-shaped object sitting on the edge of a ridge on Mars. And you can see it's metallic, it's circular, it has what look like portholes or windows cut into the sides of the object wrapping around it. Now, if you remember, we did a video on the Mars lights. You're seeing an image from that here, where the rover snapped multiple images of this very mysterious light that was coming from far in the distance. We don't know what it came from, but it was there, and it happened multiple times. And NASA couldn't explain it. Although I think the explanation, once you've reviewed all of the evidence here, you'll come to a conclusion that this may be a normal occurrence on the surface of Mars. Some of the statues that have been found on Mars, one of the most amazing of which is this that you're seeing here, carved into the side of a rocky cliff on Mars, is this alien statue. And I want you to look at this thing side by side with one of the ancient Egyptian statues found here on Earth. And, well, just look at it. The Mars version's on the right, the Earth version from Egypt on the left. And you can see the similarities. And we know that there are these statues and these monoliths used for, who knows, possible worship, to memorialize something. I'm sure you've all heard of the face on Mars found in the Cydonia region. Here is the image of the well-known face found on Mars. And of course, being NASA and doing what they do anytime one of these things is found, here is a side-by-side comparison from the original 1976 finding, showing the face. Then we have a 1998 version and the 2001 version, where they've basically degraded the photo over the years to the point where they have edited it and messed with it so much that they want us to believe that, oh, it's not a face, it's just a mountain that looked like a face in 1976, and it's clearly been edited. When you do the research, you look at the original images, this thing looks nothing like the original. They've doctored it. They think we're stupid, but they've got a big surprise coming. Now, we've mentioned domes in our past videos many times. There's a lot of domes on Mars, not just on Mars, but on the moon and other celestial bodies in our solar system. Domes like this one here, sitting in the middle of a crater. Now, here is another image, another wonderful image, showing another one of these domes sitting on a mountainside, just barely sticking out, but sticking out enough for us to see it. And last but not least, one of our most favorite image of one of these domes comes in this image here, once again, found on the edge of a cliff. And as you're seeing, we have this big black domed structure with the sunlight reflecting right off the top of it. It almost looks like black volcanic glass, if you've ever seen it. It's this jet black glass, and that's what this reminds me of. And again, you've all seen the Mars photo with what looks like a man walking on the surface, wrapped in some sort of black garb, possibly to protect him from the radiation or the sun. And NASA had a lot of trouble trying to explain this one away. Of course, they said it was just a rock, but I mean, you look at this thing. NASA was left fumbling for an explanation to feed to all the sheep out there. So again, there is much more that you can research and find anomalous things that have been on Mars. Back to this original image, one more piece of the puzzle showing that there are living things on Mars moving at all different stages. So again, let me know what you guys think. Very interesting times we are living in. So thanks for watching. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe on your way out. And stay tuned because we've got a lot more coming.